None of us expected Rings of Power to get better as time went on. Going into season 2 and even 3, we knew the show was going to stay as bad as it was in the first season, but an executive at Amazon went into an interview recently to try and tackle some of the bad press surrounding the show, and he straight up admits they have intentionally ignored fan criticisms because they are so confident in the show's future. I have a bunch of different things to show off, but before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month, or support the channel via YouTube memberships. All of the links are in the description, and of course, I do really appreciate all of the support. So starting with this Bounding into Comics article, it says Amazon Studios executive admits company is still being intentionally deaf about fan feedback for the Rings of Power. Now, going into the next seasons, we have heard very mixed things from people like the showrunners. We have heard that they want to keep doing what they're doing. They have their own vision. They're confident in it. But we've also heard that they wanted to go back to the Tolkien roots and really make it a accurate series, which I don't really think that they can do at this point. They have ruined so much. They have retconned so much. I don't really think that they could get back on track and make it source material accurate, but we have heard very mixed things, and we do know that the writers' room has completely changed. The 2 male writers who wrote season 1 are out. They have brought in 3 new female writers, and they are people who worked on things like Sandman, The Witcher, multiple things that are kind of similar to Rings of Power, and they are very confident in their future with the show. But it kind of seems like behind the scenes, they're in a state of disaster. But now we're hearing again that they don't really care about fan feedback, which isn't that surprising, but it is very disappointing because we are criticizing this series so that they can make it better. We don't want them ruining Tolkien's work and his world, and unfortunately, they don't really care what we have to say. So it says the Amazon Studios exec Vernon Sanders, who is the head of global TV, recently admitted that the company is still ignoring fan feedback surrounding the Rings of Power. Of course, people who are cocky think that they rule the world and that they can do whatever the hell they want, but people are not going to show up for season 2 or even a season 3 if you don't make drastic changes. He said, "We set up our own study with thousands of people, among them thousands of Lord of the Rings fans, to really have a conversation with them as each episode dropped to just understand how they were reacting," which is hilarious coming from the people who had these super fans, social media influencers with big followings that they paid a bunch of money to talk about the show before it even released. And then once the show came out, they were silent. They said nothing about the Rings of Power because we could tell they just got paid to read a script and they embarrassed themselves. But this is that same company, guys. I mean, they thought the super fans were going to go over well. I don't really believe that they had thousands of people who were Lord of the Rings fans having conversations with them after every episode. Maybe at the end of the series, they consulted a few people and that was it, but I don't actually believe them here. Then again, they've given us no reason to believe them because they've put out fake numbers, they've lied to us, they've attacked us. There's really no reason to trust them. But it says we were doing so much of a 360 comprehensive look as we could to really understand it. And I think we got a lot of those Lord of the Rings fans, both fans of the books and fans of the movies. He then admitted, "We also know that there were some fans who had issues or didn't feel like this was what they were expecting or done in the way that they expected, and that's natural. I think whenever you take on something that's so beloved, you're going to have probably a strong reaction for and have some people who just aren't on board. And unfortunately for them, most people weren't really on board with the Rings of Power. Yes, there are some people who love it, who think it's great, and that's awesome. If you enjoy Rings of Power, then enjoy it. I personally do not. I see the flaws in it, and I can't help but criticize it because I was expecting so much. When you're putting the Lord of the Rings on something, it's going to be highly scrutinized, and they just can't handle that heat, so they really shouldn't have made the show in the first place. These people cannot take criticism at all. This article actually brings up the superfan situation, saying he didn't go into any other detail, but Amazon and Prime Video embarrassed themselves when they claimed to have brought a number of LOTR superfans to a special screening of the show's trailer. These superfans didn't seem at all interested in LOTR when they cut a number of promotional videos attempting to promote the show. Rather, they put the focus on identity politics instead. Yeah, the superfans' review of the trailer went terribly for them. Every post got obliterated and ratioed, and people were pretty furious because it's not that hard to find real Lord of the Rings superfans, but of course they chose these people because they have giant followings on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, just social media in general, so they basically gave them a script and said, oh, here you go, say these things about Lord of the Rings and the Rings of Power, say that you love it, act excited, and they tried, but they failed miserably. It says not only were these superfans pushing identity politics rather than discussing Tolkien and Lord of the Rings, one of them later admitted to not even watching the show, which of course is hilarious because you hired these people to say, I love Lord of the Rings, I'm so excited for the show, and they couldn't even take the time to watch it, again, because they're not really Lord of the Rings fans. They just got paid to act. Unfortunately for them, they're just really bad actors, and everybody could tell that they were lying. But it says that, however, that wasn't even the biggest reveal that Sanders made. He actually briefly discussed the Charlie Vickers Halbrand being revealed as Sauron in the final episode. While discussing Sauron, Sanders made it clear Amazon Studios and Prime Video are not actually listening to fans of Tolkien and LOTR, who have made it abundantly clear the show is terrible, mainly due to the fact that it completely threw Tolkien's writing into the waste bin in favor of modern, woke sensibilities. He said one of the challenges for this show when you are adapting something is to tell the story that people are excited to see, but sometimes find ways to surprise them. Nothing was surprising about this show. Season 1 was who is Sauron? It was like a big game because they kept making you think that everybody could be Sauron, but the answer was right in front of us the whole time. Most people thought it was Halbrand. Leaks said that it was Halbrand, and honestly, they were pushing it way too much that he's mysterious and there's something off about him, but nobody can figure it out. It just was way too easy to guess, and it led to the show just being really bad. Sauron, I would argue, is the greatest villain of all time, and how do you know that person? How do you get to understand how they work? What layers are there? And I think because of the way the story was told and because of the great performances of Vickers and Morfydd Clark, I think audiences now have an insight whether he fooled them or whether they knew the entire time. There's a much more interpersonal human side of this character, and I'm so excited for people to see Sauron unleashed in season 2. Honestly, I'm not excited to see Sauron unleashed in season 2 because I don't want to see them mess up this character anymore. I don't want to see them fuck around and find out how mad fans can really get, because now you're getting into the thick of the story, right? He's Sauron now. Galadriel has to face the choices that she's made. We've got the Rings of Power in the mix, and there's a lot at stake here, and I just don't think that they can nail it. After seeing season 1, I honestly think that they should just pack up shop, because there's no way that they can do his work justice. There's no way that they can make this feel Tolkien. There's a lot that they can mess up now. It says, except the show butchers the character of Sauron. They didn't actually show his fall, his chance at repentance, penance, and obedience, his rejection of it, and then his complete turning into a reincarnation of evil. Tolkien laid out Sauron's character arc in Letter 131, writing, in the Silmarillion, in Tales of the First Age, Sauron was a being of Valinor, perverted to the service of the enemy and becoming his chief captain and servant. He continued, he repents in fear when the first enemy is utterly defeated, but in the end does not do as was commanded, return to the judgment of the gods. He lingers in Middle-earth very slowly, beginning with fair motives, the reorganizing and rehabilitation of the ruin of Middle-earth. Neglected by the gods, he becomes a reincarnation of evil and a thing lusting for complete power, and so consumed ever more fiercely with hate. I mean, he did release a lot of information about the fall of Sauron and what was going to happen with this character, but Amazon decided, you know what, there's enough gray area here where we feel like we can just kind of completely rewrite what happens with Sauron, which of course people didn't like. But as you can see, the executive over at Amazon is deciding to say, we still don't care about fan feedback. We are being intentionally deaf about it. We're not really listening to what you guys have to say, and ultimately it's going to lead to another failure. Season 2, Season 3. We've talked about it. They say they're going to do 5 seasons. I think they're going to end at 3. Only time will tell. But they are gearing up to start filming Season 2 of Rings of Power, and I'm just very worried to see what they're going to ruin next. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed it and found it important and informative, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.